Welcome into Texans Today. I'm your host, Jeremy Chuggs. Before we get started with the latest Texans news and rumors, I need your help. My boss has said, hey, you got to get to 15,000 subscribers by the end of the month, August 1st. I need your help. We're currently at 14,826. I need 174 more subs. So why don't we just get that on this video? Hey, there we go. We're done. I can give it to my bosses and say, hey, Texans fans, we represent, we show out. So prove me right to my bosses. Go down and hit that sub button if you haven't already. We got a jam-packed show on tap for you guys today. The latest Texans news and rumors. And I'd be remiss not to say to all my Houston viewers, I hope you're doing well. I know a lot of you are without power. A lot of you are without electricity at this moment. I mean, hey, Titus Howard posted this photo on Twitter earlier today. So I know there's a lot going on in the city of Houston. Just know I'm sending my well wishes. All my family lives out there. I mean, my mom lives in Texas City. My brother lives in Kingwood. My best friend lives in Pasadena. So I get it. There's been a lot of stuff going on in the city. I mean, hey, NRG Stadium, the roof got damaged as well during Hurricane Beryl. So I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, I hope all of you are doing okay. Everybody's being safe down there with all the conditions going on. I do have to give a quick shout out as well to Steven Nelson. I know I've, obviously talked some mess about him on the channel here in the past with what he said about the organization and such, but you can't say the dude isn't a good guy. He's out there helping people in the city as we're speaking right now. Props to you, Steven Nelson. Props to you, and props to everybody who is helping out your local Houstonians, your fellow neighbors, your companions. And this is what makes this city the best city in the nation, because we stand together, we get hit, we get knocked down, but we get right damn back up. We're the best city in America. If you agree with me, if you are H-Town strong, go down in the comment section and type it loud and proud, because I'll tell you what, I would rather be from nowhere else in this great country than the city of Houston. The best city in the world, best team in the NFL possibly this season. You know it. Go down and type H-Town strong if you are one of us, if you believe. Shout out to everybody from the city of H-Town. Now, first story on tap for you today. 6 Texans ranked in the top 100 of the latest CBS Sports list by Pete Prisco. Might be surprised on who's number 1 for the Texans. It's Danielle Hunter coming in at the top spot at 35, ranked 35 out of 100 for the top 100 players going into the 2024 season. C.J. Stroud ranked at 38, Laramie Tunsil at 50, Nico Collins at 77, Derek Stingley Jr. at 80, and Will Anderson Jr. just making the list there at 99. In my opinion, obviously happy to have 6 guys who are in the top 100, 6 guys who made that list. I think, Tank Dell, Stephon Diggs, they have arguments of how they could have deserved a spot on this list, deserved a spot in the top 100. Definitely Stephon Diggs, in my opinion, with his track record, his stat line over the past 4 seasons has been incredible. So maybe a little bit of a snub there. Maybe a couple other Texans as well. I know Azeez Al-Shire is very underrated. He might be a top 100 player in this league, but overall, happy to have 6 guys who have made the top 100 list for this CBS Sports list that just came out. Next up, are the Texans looking for a running back? Is that a possibility? I was scrolling through the internet. I was kind of looking at other Texans content creators, looking at other Texans articles that are going on, and I came by this Toro Times article that, talked about the Texans possibly signing a running back. This is what they had to say to start off with. They said, I believe the offensive line, with the holes that it has, is in better shape than the running back room. Mixon is a name, but he's not proven to be an elite player, and he's at the age where guys in his position decline. Dameon Pierce, the team's backup running back, had a terrible second year in the NFL. And I guess if you don't think Joe Mixon is a good enough starting running back and you really believe that the version that we saw last year of Dameon Pierce is the version that we'll get, yes, this, running back room might not give you the most confidence going into next season. With that being said, though, you saw the names on the list right there. What is your confidence level in this Texans running back room? Scale it 1 to 100. 1, you have no confidence at all. 100, you think it's the best running back room in the entire NFL? Me personally, I'm at a solid 85. I think Joe Mixon is being a little bit underrated, a little bit undervalued here. Yes, he's not maybe a top 5 running back in this league, but Joe Mixon is still really good. He's amassed over 1,000 yards in seasons where he had Joe Burrow at quarterback and 3 elite wide receivers on that team, and they were spreading the ball out, airing it out almost every single game, and Joe Mixon was still getting his. So I think he is a little bit of an underrated running back, and I'm really excited to see what he could do this season for the Houston Texans. And Dameon Pierce, if he gets back into that shape, into that form that he was in his rookie season, I mean, this is a really good 1-2 duo. I'm really excited to see if Dameon Pierce can bounce back and what Joe Mixon brings to the room. But Toro Times, they had a suggestion of what the Texans should do. This is what they had to say. If the worst happens to this position group, Mixon falls off and Pierce doesn't rebound, the Texans may need to look elsewhere. One interesting name could be that of former Super Bowl winner Leonard Fournette. They want the Texans to go out and sign Leonard Fournette. I mean, you look at his stat line last year, nothing to really be proud of. 12 carries for 40 yards in that Buffalo offense where he really didn't get any run last season. I mean, he played 2 games last year for the Buffalo Bills and put up those stats. I mean, the year prior, he was okay, 189 carries, 668 yards, 3 touchdowns. You have to go back to 2021 where he actually really did anything, but I don't know if Leonard Fournette's the answer. I'm not saying he's completely washed, but if you're looking at Leonard Fournette to be your starting running back, you are in a load of trouble. That is not a place you want to be in with him being your RB1 going into any games this season if you're the Houston Texans. This is a worst-case scenario. I mean, push the panic button if the Texans are starting Leonard Fournette this season. I'm telling you this right now. Up next, the Toro Times had another article, maybe even more crazy, more ludicrous article than the last. They put out their Texans cut candidates, some surprise Texans cut candidates, and I completely disagree with their list. I'll tell you who's on that list in just a moment, but our friends over at Fanatics have a great deal with the brand new Texans secondary logo. You can get it in shirts, long sleeves, hoodies, everything you need if you go to chatsports.com/H-Town. They have all sizes, all different, kinds of shirts, different kinds of sweatshirts. I know they have hats. I know they also have shorts. Anything you need or want with the new Texans logo, they got it. I'm going to put that link in the comment section and description of today's video. One more time, it's chatsports.com/H-Town. So the first name on this list is where I kind of stopped and was like, what the hell are they even talking about? They said Shaq Mason could be a surprise cut candidate for this Texans team. Yes, your starting right guard right now is going to be a cut candidate? Huh? How does that even make sense? They talked about, if Kenyon Green steps up, you could have Kendrick Green step in, or maybe Juice Scruggs play right guard, or maybe even Titus Howard push into right guard, which we all know how Titus Howard plays at the guard position. He's much better suited to be a tackle in this league. I don't see how they could cut Shaq Mason and make it make sense. He was, maybe not at his best last year, but he also had a rotating door at right tackle right next to him throughout the entire season that he had to deal with playing at right guard. Shaq Mason is still a good player, so I don't see how you're like, oh yeah, we can just cut him. Yeah, we'll save some money, but I mean, who needs a starting right guard anyway? That makes zero sense. I don't think there's a world where we see Shaq Mason get cut from this team this offseason unless he just like Space Jam, gets all his powers taken by a group of Martians that come to this earth, or he gets injured. I don't see where you're like, oh yeah, we can definitely cut Shaq Mason, and this offensive line won't miss a beat. Well, we'll be able to move forward. That made zero sense to me in this article, however way they tried to explain how the Texans could cut Shaq Mason. The next one they said is Jimmie Ward, which I kind of get. Jimmie Ward did not play well last year, getting up there in age, but at the same time, he's a favorite of D'Amico Ryans. He was, whenever they released their new jerseys, he was in almost all the spreadsheets. He was like front and center with all the new Texans players going into this season. I don't see them cutting Jimmie Ward, to be honest. Maybe they should. Maybe I am reading too much into his relationships with the coaching staff in the front office. But I just don't see them cutting Jimmie Ward. I mean, he is a D'Amico Ryans guy. I think he has a spot on this roster, was injured last season. Maybe, DeMeco Ryans knows he still wants to implement his defense even more going into this season with the Houston Texans, and he thinks a guy like Jimmie Ward will be a perfect player, especially on the back end, to kind of make sure everybody is in line. I just don't see them cutting Jimmie Ward, even if it is somewhat justified. And the last name they said on here is Desmond King II, which this one, obviously, I'm not going to say not possible, not that it's not going to happen, because the Texans did that last offseason. They had Desmond King on the roster. They cut him before the season. He went to the Pittsburgh Steelers, then ended up coming back to the Texans mid-season. So, obviously, they could cut King. But I also don't think that makes that much sense either, because King played very well for you last season, and especially if you want Kamari Lassiter to kind of blossom into this CB2, this other outside corner opposite of Derek Stingley, then you'll want Desmond King there in the slot. So I think cutting Desmond King, it doesn't make sense as much either. I don't think, especially you cut Jimmie Ward and Desmond King, both, decent slot options in like nickel and dime packages. I don't see them cutting Desmond King this season. I'm not saying it's not possible, because obviously, like I said, they cut him last year, but cutting Desmond King, cutting these three guys, if these three guys are cut, if Shaq Mason, Jimmie Ward, and Desmond King are cut, we're in trouble. Hit the panic meter if that is the case, because if all three of those guys are cut, that means, one, they all three were really, really bad or got injured, and I don't know who's stepping up into their spots where I feel more comfortable than those players starting this season. I mean, if Jimmie Ward gets cut, yes, Kalen Bullock and Jalen Petrie, that could be a good 1-2 option. That's not as much what I'm concerned about, but if you're cutting Desmond King, that means Jeff Okudah is probably starting for you, or some sort of CJ Henderson, somebody else in the slot, which I don't feel comfortable with at all. And if you're cutting Shaq Mason, that means you're putting either Titus Howard at that guard spot, or Kendrick Green at that guard spot, or Juice Scruggs at that guard spot, which none of those three options sound better to me than Shaq Mason. So if those three guys are cut, I'm hitting the panic meter, and that's why I just do not agree with this list by the Toro Times whatsoever. Do you agree with it? How do you feel about what we talked about on today's show? Let me know on social media. You can hit me up on X at Jeremy Chuggs, or on IG at Jeremy_Chuggs. My DMs are always open, always down to talk a little shop, talk ball. So add me on social media, and let's continue this Texans conversation.